Finally, we are up against Ragnaros in Phase 4 of Season of Discovery at level 60. Let's have a look at everything we need to know to hit the ground running as a Feral Druid DPS. First things first, what stat priority do we want to follow? Well, first up, you are going to want to hit 9% hit chance. This is actually the cap for special attacks against the bosses in Molten Core, which are seen as 3 levels above you. After that, we're going to be going for strength. The main reason here is 1 strength actually equals 2 attack power. Therefore, after that, attack power will be the next stat we want. That does mean that basically 60, or should I say 30 strength is equal to 60 attack power thereabouts. Use that simple calculation to roughly estimate which item could be better, depending on if it has strength or attack power. Don't also forget it will include feral attack power that you will get from certain items. Next up would be haste, and don't forget we can use things like catnip, which although a rare kind of commodity is very, very useful for feral druids, as we aren't able to get a lot from other sources. After that, it will be agility and then critical strike. Critical strike, of course, doubling the amount of damage we can do when we get a critical hit. And agility is an interesting one. This actually will also increase your attack power, just like strength does. However, it does half the amount. So where strength increases attack power by, say, a times of 2, imagine agility is 0.5. The only nuance to that, however, is that agility does a few other things. It actually increases your critical strike, it increases your dodge chance, and it also increases your armor a little bit as well. So it's a good kind of all-rounder stat. Moving on now to the talents, of course. This is pretty much a pure DPS feral build. You can swap a few talents around if you would like to go over and do some off-tanking, etc., but this is generally what we're going to be going with. There's a few important talents here, and I must say, I won't be going through every individual one. If you are still leveling up to level 60, and want maybe a level 25, 40, or 50 guide, check out my channel below. I have got playlists for all the phases, meaning you can see what talents you should be taking at different points in the leveling journey. And I do go into a lot deeper analysis on individual talents in those videos. Of course, most of them are going to be in the feral tree. Main ones being Feral Charge, giving us an interrupt here. Fairy Fire, which is something we're going to be using a lot as a very high priority in the rotation we'll be looking at shortly, where we're decreasing the armor of our target. Improved Shred here is a really important talent we're going to be taking, reducing the energy cost of our Shred. It is going to be our main filler ability, and therefore we are going to be using it quite a lot. And I do also recommend getting Leader of the Pack. While in Cat Bear or Dire Bear form, the Leader of the Pack increases ranged and melee critical strike chance of all party members within 45 yards by 3%. Do be aware somebody else may be taking this and giving this benefit, so you may want to liaise with your raid team whether or not you should be taking this talent. Going over into the balance tree, interestingly enough, we're actually taking a few. We're taking Improved Wrath so we can get down later into the tree, mainly for things like natural weapons, where we're increasing the damage we deal with physical attacks. Natural Shapeshifter, reducing the mana cost of all shapeshifting by 30%, because we will be power shifting in and out of Cat to get some more energy back. And lastly, Omen of Clarity. When you use your melee attacks, you're actually going to have a chance to go into a clear casting state. What that state does is it means your next ability will be free of any energy cost. And lastly, 5 out of 5 into Furor in the Restoration tree, giving you a 100% chance to gain 10 Rage when you shapeshift into Bear and Dire Bear form, or 40 Energy when you shift into Cat form. You can then see why it's so important to manage your energy with shapeshifting in and out of Cat form, and reducing the mana cost of it with Natural Shapeshifter over in the balance tree because of Furor. What you can simply do to actually achieve this is a very simple macro that I will put down below in the description. And when you are at 0 energy, so when you have actually run out of energy, you click the macro, taking you out of Cat form, and you go back into Cat form to then get that energy back when you shapeshift in. It will cost mana, hence why we're reducing the cost of shapeshifting. And this is known as power shifting. It's actually a really, really simple mechanic, but very, very useful. Now on to the runes. First up, looking at the head rune, I like to go for Gore. It is quite weak in comparison to some of the other runes we're choosing, but we don't have much choice in the head slot. Striking a target with Lacerate, Swipe or Maul has a 15% chance to reset the cooldown on your other abilities. Strike a target with Mangle or Shred in cat form, which is the main one we're going to be using, has a 15% chance to reset the cooldown on Tiger's Fury, one of the amazing cooldowns we do have at our disposal. Then on the chest we have Wild Strikes. While in cat form, party members within 20 yards gain increased combat ferocity. Each melee hit has a 20% chance of granting the attacker an extra attack with 20% additional attack power. No effect if the party member is already benefiting from Wind Fury Totem. So do be aware, again, just like Leader of the Pack, or even Fairy Fire, other people in the raid may be bringing this. So you do want to liaise with your raid leader or your party members to make sure that you're not double dipping here at, for no reason. If you're not going for that, I would just say to go for Survival of the Fittest. Again, it's not going to be that useful when we're DPSing, but off-tanking it may be. Reducing the chance to be critically hit by melee attacks and reducing all damage taken by 10%. So again, if somebody is taking Wild Strikes, just go with Survival of the Fittest. Not a huge increase, but it is something for a bit of survivability. Alun's Fire, basically for us cats, is going to actually massively increase our rip duration. More on that in the rotation part. You can see here that Shred, again, that is this one here that we're improving. Shred is actually going to extend our rip by 2 seconds. So if you don't know how Feral Druid works, it's kind of like a rogue. We have energy we're spending on things like Shred to build up combo points. We're going to be spending those combo points on things like Rip. Rip is a finisher, so we're spending combo points, and that is actually going to do a dot or damage over time onto our target. Using Shred will extend the duration of Rip due to the Alun's Fire's rune. Then we have Mangle. We're of course going to want to go with this, enabling us to do attacks from the front when Shred is not available. Mangle a target for 160% normal damage and cause the target to take 30% additional damage from bleed effects and Shred for a minute. Going on to the second line, we've got Berserk. When activated, this ability causes your Mangle and Lacerate abilities to hit up to 3 targets. Lacerate to cost no rage, Mangle in bed to have no cooldown, blah blah blah. And reduces the energy cost of your cat form abilities by 50%. So you could really pump out some extra DPS in this window. Lasts 15 seconds. It does require you to be in cat form or bear form to actually activate this. Of course, we're using it for the cat form effects. Remember I spoke about briefly the combo points and we have generators and finishers. Savage Roar leans into that. Finishing move that increases physical damage done by 30% while in cat form. And if we use 5 combo points, that will last for 34 seconds. You want to use this as a higher priority to your other finishers to make sure that our other abilities are doing more damage and we're keeping this up as much as possible. King of the Jungle is actually going to enhance our Tiger's Fury cooldown. Again, Tiger's Fury now increases all physical damage you deal by 15% instead of a flat value, and instantly grants you 60 energy. So make sure you're only using Tiger's Fury at 40 energy or below. It is no longer on the global cooldown, but it does have its own 30-second cooldown, however. Improved Swipe is very simple. Your swipe ability becomes Swipe in cat form, and can actually strike up to 7 additional enemies. That's right, you better watch out. Swiping nearby enemies, inflicting 250% weapon damage and generating 1 combo point from your current target. Lastly, the new ring runes we're getting, very simple for us Feral Druids. Feral Combat Specialization, Feral Combat Skill is increased by 5, and then Defense Specialization, increasing Defense Skill by 25. If you're wondering what does that actually mean, or what does it translate to in real terms, the Feral Combat Specialization increase is actually going to help improve your hit rating, meaning you are going to need less extra stats to hit that hit cap that we need of 9% in Molten Core. Then the Defense Specialization one, quite simply, increases your avoidance at, of course, the low, simple cost of using a rune slot. Lastly then, how is it all going to come together into the rotation? Well, we're going to start off by using Fairy Fire when we go into combat to make sure that we're reducing our target's armor as much as possible, so we can all do more damage to the target, of course. After that, we're going to go in with our Mangle, our Rake, and our Savage Roar. Make sure that you do actually rebuff the Mangle, Rake, and Savage Roar abilities on the target and keep that uptime as high as you can. Do use them in that order. Remember, when you use your Mangle, it's going to increase the amount of bleed effect damage that the target takes from you. And then Rake, which is a bleed effect, will do a dot or damage over time on the enemy. These are both combo point generators. Savage Roar, being a combo point finisher, is then going to increase damage done by 30% for 34 seconds if you use 5 combo points. If you are using catnip or the neurolinked cowl, etc., that's increasing your haste, now is the time to use it, now that we've got our buffs up. So we've got our Savage Roar up, we're doing increased damage, let's use our catnip and actually do increased haste so we can pump out that higher damage as quick as possible. Then that's when we're going to use our Tiger's Fury cooldown. Again, that's going to further increase our damage done for a long period of time. Do make sure that you are actually below 40 energy when you use it, because it is going to restore instantly 60 energy, and we don't want to overcap or waste that energy. Then immediately after that, because again, remember, we're doing all this extra damage from our catnip, increasing our haste, our Savage Roar, and our Tiger's Fury, boom, we're going to go into our Big Daddy cooldown of our Berserk, reducing the energy cost of our abilities so we can get through that rotation even quicker, pumping out even more damage. After that, we can use our Omen of Clarity, which is our free clear casting procs on our Shred, which also will then be our filler spell that we'll be using. Once you've gotten all of these things out, so you've got your Mangle up, you've got your Rake out, you've got your Savage Roar, it sounds like a lot, but really this is just the opener and it's all going to take a few seconds. So you've got our Mangle, Rake and Savage Roar up, we're using our Catnip and Tiger's Fury and we're berserking, then we're going to make sure we're using our 5 combo point generators, our 5 combo points, using that on Rip. And don't forget that Shred will actually keep up our Rip for longer. So Shred will reapply or extend the duration of our Rip. And do try and use Rip under the effects of Tiger's Fury for that extra damage that we can be doing. If you're wondering what to do on multi-target, quite simply, use your swipe. That is what it's there for. End of conversation there, keeping up Fairy Fire, etc. where possible. One thing I do want to talk about regarding Tiger's Fury, which is a more advanced mechanic if you're into that, is going to be snapshotting. So remember that Tiger's Fury is increasing the damage, etc. If you put on or reapply Rake while this is on, even after Tiger's Fury falls off you, not off the target, but once the Tiger's Fury effect on yourself falls off, if you, for instance, still have a Rip and a Rake up, they will still do the higher amount of damage that they had been using when they were used. So putting it simply, if you use Rip and Rake while Tiger's Fury is active and you're doing a higher amount of damage, the entire duration of Rip and Rake will do that higher amount of damage even after your Tiger's Fury falls off. So it's a really, really key thing to remember and at managing that buff. You should be using it when your energy actually dips low enough that you're not going to overcap energy, and then can use your Berserk to make things cost half the amount of energy. So when you get that extra 60 energy from Tiger's Fury, you're then using Berserk to halve the cost of the abilities, and therefore you're using your abilities and your energy a bit more efficiently. Don't also forget, talking about energy gain, that when you shapeshift in and out of cat form with the macro that is again in the description below, you will be gaining 40 energy back with power shifting. That is due to the Furor talent, remember. So you are going to have quite a few ways of getting that energy back should you dip really low. And it's just about managing these dots and managing these buffs on yourself. That is how you're going to maximize how good you are as a Feral Druid. If you guys do need any extra help at all, you can actually message me one-on-one over on my Patreon, as well as get tons of extra resources like some extra macros, UI imports and add-ons, and actually specific guides for how to set up your UI and other things that are only available to Patreons, as well as, of course, supporting me as a creator. There's a link down below in the description for that. And if you are looking for any other class guides, I am doing them all for SoD Phase 4. Do check out the playlist up on the screen here for you now.